Have you ever thought about becoming a realtor? How long it would take, how much it would cost to get your license? Well, let me break it down for you and explain how I became a licensed realtor in Alberta, Canada in just under 3 months. Be sure to stick around until the end of the video for some key tips and strategies on how you can do the very same. Hey folks, it's Alex Menzies here, your local Calgary realtor with eXp Realty, here to provide you with all the key updates on the Calgary real estate market, as well as tips and tricks on all things real estate. So make sure to leave a comment down below if you've got any questions, anything that you want covered on this channel. I'll always get back to you and I'll provide you with those videos in the future. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already and click that notification bell so you never miss another upload from me. Like the video if you find it helpful today, and without further ado, let's dive into what it takes to become a realtor. First off, a quick disclaimer, my only exposure to licensing is through the Real Estate Council of Alberta, also known as RECA, but wherever you are in the world, don't worry, I'll be providing tips and tricks on what helped me get my license in the quickest amount of time possible, and it can help you too. So at the very start of this process, the first thing I had to do was sign up to the Real Estate Council of Alberta website for my eligibility review. To be eligible to apply, you need to be at least 18 years old, be able to study and work in Canada legally, and be able to present a government issued ID. You should have a minimum high school education or equivalent and prove your level of English language ability. Once you've chosen your account type and you've fully set up your MyRECA account, you pay the $350 eligibility review fee, and then they will contact you with all the supporting documentation that they need to process your request. For myself personally, because I just moved from the UK to Canada in 2023, part of my application process on my eligibility review was to contact my alumni office for my university back in the UK, where I graduated in 2011, and ask them for a transcript of my course. I also had to appoint an organization that was officially recognized by RECA, who could review all of my credentials and provide a report back to RECA in a format that they deemed appropriate for them to evaluate my eligibility. There are a number of organizations who provide this service, and they're all listed on the RECA website, but the one that I went with personally was World Education Services. They were really great to work with, and they made everything super streamlined and clear from the get-go. They also had an app that allowed me to upload all of my supporting documentation and track the progress of my evaluation. The total cost of this service was around about $388. However, please bear in mind that this process is only applicable to those of you who have not gone through the Canadian education system. Once you've received confirmation of your eligibility to apply for your realtor's license, it's time for you to choose a course provider. Again, there's a number of different options available, and they're all listed on the RECA website. However, the first thing that you're going to want to choose is how you wish to study. So that could be either classroom-led, whether remote or in person, fully remote self-led learning where you study at your own pace, or a combination of the two. I chose self-led learning because it worked best for me and my schedule, working full-time and having 2 young children as well. So I had to squeeze in those hours of study wherever I possibly could to make my learning journey as effective as possible. So once you've chosen your method of study, you can then narrow down your choice of course providers. Again, all of this information is on the RECA website, but what they'll do is they'll provide you with a breakdown of all the applicable fees for each individual course provider, as well as the success rate of students who have taken the course itself. That way you can make an informed decision on what works best for you, for your budget, while also measuring the quality of that course provider up front. I chose to study using the online learning platform by the Alberta Real Estate Association, and being that this was self-led learning, this was also one of the cheapest options available as well. Okay, so you know that you're eligible for licensing, you've chosen your course provider, you've paid all of your fees up until now, so what is next? Well, this is where you really need to knuckle down and do the hard work, the studying. If you're learning at your own pace, I would recommend scheduling time out every single day where possible so that it's in your calendar and you're more likely to stick to it. That being said, if you're like me and you have to grab that study time as and when you can always try and stick to a schedule, but just make sure that you're really strict with yourself. And if you get a window of opportunity, just open your laptop or whatever you need to do and get it done. The first course you have to take is the Fundamentals of Real Estate exam. This is a massive, broad overview of all things real estate, and there will be some content in there there where you're thinking to yourself as you're learning it, this doesn't apply to me. This isn't something that I have any intention of going into in the future. However, it's great to get that overview nonetheless, because you never know what you're going to have exposure to when you get onto the job. My course fee with the Alberta Real Estate Association for the Fundamentals of Real Estate exam was $600. I started this in October because it took a little bit of time for all of my transcripts and everything to come back from the UK over to Canada, then be evaluated in order for my eligibility to be processed. Once I completed all of the coursework, Rika received notification from the Alberta Real Estate Association, also known as AREA, that I had completed the course and that I was eligible to then book the exam. A crucial part of why I succeeded in passing this exam the first time round was because I made a commitment to completion. As soon as I was authorized to book the exam, I booked it at the earliest possible opportunity that I could. I made a decision that whether I felt I was ready or not to take the exam, in my mind, I would be right. So booking a date and getting it scheduled in my calendar gave me the best chance to review everything that I needed to within a certain time frame and stay focused to give myself the best possible chance of success. So how did I know where I was falling behind in the course material? Well, I reviewed all of the practice questions that came as part of that online learning platform by area, and that helped me at a base level to identify and highlight any areas of concern for information that I haven't managed to retain or just things that didn't make sense to me at the time. But it was the practice exams provided by Rika that really helped me to identify what I need to focus on in the run up to the exam. I would highly recommend you purchasing an official practice exam, because not only is it in the same format as the real life exam that you're going to take, it's the same portals, same controls, everything else. But once you've submitted the completed exam, it'll provide you with a report of whether you passed or failed and a chart that demonstrates all the percentages of the individual topics and subjects within the exam, so you can identify how well you did in each subject area. One big piece of advice for these practice exams and something to look out for is you need to be mindful of the total number of questions that are in the practice exam. This may not always align with the total number of questions in the real life exam, and so when you're looking at the pass rates as a percentage, you won't always get a true measure of your success or failure rate. In addition, you could end up doing a bunch of practice exams that has far less questions than the real life exam, but the exact same time limit, and this could give you a false sense of security as to how quickly you're getting through the questions to complete the actual exam. Another thing to be mindful of here is the exam weightings for each individual section of the exam. This is a little bit confusing, so let me explain. So here's an example of the exam weightings for the Fundamentals of Real Estate course. Now, using my results from my practice exam, I was able to identify which modules within the course material I was falling behind on, but it was the exam weightings that allowed me to prioritize which sections of the course I was going to spend the majority of my time working to improve upon. Now, of course, whether you take the practice exam ahead of your actual exam is entirely up to you. It's not mandatory. However, I found it an incredibly useful tool to help me assess the extent of my knowledge on relevant topics that were going to help me to score high in the final exam. And again, making that prioritization list of what I was going to focus on in the run up to the exam allowed me to make the best use of my time with the deadline that I'd given myself. So how much did I spend on all of this? Well, the practice exam was $68.25 and the actual exam itself was $246.75. I had one opportunity to revisit the exam if I failed it the first time round. However, I told myself this wasn't an option because a lot of this stuff comes down to mindset. The great thing about these style of exams is that once you hit submit and you've completed all of your questions, you receive your results almost instantly. I passed the Fundamentals of Real Estate exam in November, and as soon as I got home from the exam center, I paid the $400 fee to AREA for my chosen area of real estate practice. Now, this is an absolutely crucial part of your real estate licensing journey because this second course will determine the kind of work you can and cannot carry out on behalf of your clients once you're fully licensed. Of course, in the future, you can go on to get licensed in multiple areas of real estate practice once your initial licensing is complete. But with the Fundamentals of Real Estate course being so broad, it also serves the purpose of helping you to determine which area of real estate practice you wish to go into initially in your career. The practice areas to choose from are residential, commercial, rural, and property management. I chose to go into residential real estate, so this was the course that I purchased from the area website utilizing that same online learning platform. Then, after implementing the same techniques that I used to study for the initial course, I was able to pass my residential real estate exam the first time round on December 14th. And after one final step, I was eligible to become a fully licensed realtor here in Alberta. Now, one very big tip here for Canadian applicants as the final part of your licensing journey before you sign up to a brokerage is that you have to have clearance from the RCMP by requesting from them a certified criminal records check. To do this, you need to go to an accredited fingerprint agency who provides fingerprint and identification services in your city. They will send off a report to the RCMP, and you then need to wait for the RCMP to respond with their corresponding report, which they will send directly to the Real Estate Council of Alberta or your applicable real estate council in your province. The big mistake that I made that I would love for you to avoid is that I submitted my request directly through the Calgary Police Department. So it wasn't actually until the day that I passed my exam that I realized I needed to approach an accredited agency. I did it on the same day, but the knock-on impact of this was it delayed my final licensing by about 4 weeks. The moral of the story here, and my recommendation to you, is that you request the CCRC weeks ahead in the run-up to your final exam before you've even passed, before you're eligible for that final real estate license. But again, this is only if you're trying to fast-track your way to getting that license. If you're not in a rush, it's not a problem. So that was my experience. That was my journey to becoming a licensed realtor here in Calgary, Alberta. However, let's dive a little bit deeper into some of the resources that I utilized throughout my pre-licensing education. With a quick Google search, you can identify a number of different resources that can help you throughout your pre-licensing education. However, I like to utilize videos for learning. So one YouTube channel in particular that I used a lot through my pre-licensing studying was the Alberta Real Estate School. I'll put a link in the description to their channel. Hopefully you find it helpful. Obviously, it's only going to be applicable to those of you who are looking to get licensed in Alberta, but I'm sure you can find a number of different channels for each individual province or state if you're learning in America. As far as the course content itself, and with it being self-led learning in my case, I found that just by paying attention and reading through all of the material in one go was enough for me to gain a general understanding without the need to take notes. But where I put my focus initially in the studying journey was on the glossary of terms and understanding the definitions. This exam is much more about understanding principles and terms than it is about memorizing a bunch of information like you would in a typical school setting. I then utilized the practice exams, as I mentioned previously, to help me identify any areas where I was falling behind and make the best use of my time on the run up to the exam. To get the information to stick in my long-term memory, I utilized a spaced repetition system by making my own flashcards. So on one side of the card, I would write the term, the other side, I would write the definition, and then I would review these flashcards every single day until I felt that the information was sticking in my long-term memory. I would then put the cards that I remember very easily into the back of the pile, and I would start to review these further and further apart to make sure that it's locked in. I would recommend doing this for memorization of the definitions to the term, and then the term to the definition to, again, really lock it into your long-term memory. You don't necessarily know how the questions are going to be presented, so if the definition in your mind is only triggered by the mention of the term and you can't remember that the other way around, you could come unstuck in the exam itself despite all the work that you've put in. I do prefer making my own flashcards because I feel like the actual creation of them helps move that information from your short-term memory to your long-term memory a lot faster. However, there are a number of apps available that you can utilize, and they will have the spaced repetition system built into it already. There will be an algorithm which allows the cards to be reviewed in the correct order, in the correct time, to really help you retain that information and move it from your short-term memory to your long-term memory, which is the goal at the end of the day. One example that I've had a lot of success with in the past when I've been learning languages and other things is an app called Anki. I'm not at all affiliated with Anki in any way whatsoever, but I will leave a link in the description for you in case it's something you're interested in. Your final step in your licensing journey, if you're a brand new realtor, is of course to choose a brokerage, and who you go with is completely up to you. It is personal preference. With this comes some additional fees to join your brokerage, but also to join your local real estate board as well. Depending on where you are in the world, you could choose to join a traditional brick and mortar brokerage in your city, or you can choose to go with a cloud-based brokerage, which is what I did. Now, I'm naturally biased and I've no basis for comparison here, but joining EXP as a brand new agent was the best decision that I made for my real estate career. A big part of your education as a realtor happens after you've joined your brokerage. And everything from the onboarding process to the educational material that I have access to, the career development, the ongoing learning, and additional income opportunities have been bigger and better than anything I could have anticipated. If you'd like to learn more about what it's really like to be a part of EXP, or if you'd like to partner with me personally and have my ongoing support as your sponsor on this journey, then please reach out to me. All of my contact info is in the description of the video and I would love to hear from you. If you want to start getting up to date on what's going on in the Calgary real estate market, then click on this playlist up here. Like the video if you found it helpful. Please subscribe if you want to see more content and click that notification bell so you never miss another upload from me. Comment down below if you've got any questions following on from today's video. I know we covered a lot here. Have an awesome day. Take care of yourself and I'll see you in the next one.